Brooklyn Independent Television.
Churches are being told they can no longer hold worship services inside public schools. Coming up on Brooklyn Review, I'll tell you how it's affecting members at One Park Slope Church.
This is the year of the dragon.
The smartest kids in Brooklyn who are competing for a National Spelling Bee prize. Coming up next on Brooklyn Review.
These stories and more next. Welcome to Brooklyn Review. I'm Brian Vines. For more than a decade, religious groups have been fighting in the courts to continue holding worship services inside New York City public school buildings. February 12th was the last day that organizations were allowed to do so, but their battle is not over. This month, the New York State Senate passed a bill that would allow these institutions to continue in public schools, but the future of that legislation remains in question. Sherry Carabin recently spent the morning with members of a Presbyterian church in Park Slope to see how they are being affected.
Members of Park Slope Presbyterian Church bid a final goodbye to John Jay High School, the place they've held their Sunday worship services since they began.
We started worship in March of 2004. It's been a good stay.
But their days at the high school came to an end in February. This after houses of worship lost a long court battle last year in which they were fighting for the right to continue to use New York City Department of Education buildings to hold religious services. The move is more than a little disappointing to Garland Harwood. He's been coming to the church from day one.
We're just very disappointed that we're not going to be able to meet here anymore because we don't really see who's winning with this situation. We were paying our rent, and the school was able to use those funds for great purposes. We pay the same rent as non-religious organizations, and we don't understand why we're being targeted over other organizations that aren't being targeted and still have the freedom to meet here.
Although the Department of Education gave institutions until February 12th to change venues, members of Park Slope Presbyterian Church held their last morning service on February 5th.
It's been a good school for us to rent. You can see that it's been very good for our congregation. We started with very few people, and we've grown into quite a large congregation and helped start 2 other congregations in Brooklyn. And our relationship here at John Jay has always been very good, very cordial, and so we're disappointed to have to leave. At the same time, it's a new chapter in our church's life, and we're going to move to another building here in the neighborhood with in a church building that we have great relationships with.
The new location is nearby Greenwood Baptist Church. But there is one catch, however. Members will have to get used to a new 4 p.m. start time.
I wouldn't be surprised if we have a few people that can't make it. And also, we have a few dedicated members that have to work on Sunday evenings. So, as long as we're meeting in the afternoon, they can't attend the church. Our congregation here is pretty committed to the church. So I think everybody will do their best to be there.
Ethan Campbell and his wife say they don't plan to change churches. They've also been attending services from the beginning.
In terms of where the church actually meets, it doesn't really matter. It's going to be the same church, no matter where we go. But it is too bad to lose that connection with the school, with John Jay.
The time change for us so far is okay because Jonah does take an early afternoon nap, so hopefully he'll be awake by the 4 p.m. service, so it should be okay. We'll see. While the issue made a lot of headlines in 2011 and 2012, it actually dates back to 1995 when the Bronx Household of Faith first filed a lawsuit seeking to hold its worship services in a public school. In June 2002, the U.S. District Court issued a preliminary injunction
requiring the Department of Education to allow this institution and other religious organizations to hold worship services in the city's schools during non-school hours. A series of appeals and court cases followed, but in June 2011, the Second Circuit ruled in favor of the city, and last December, the U.S. Supreme Court decided not to reconsider this decision, leaving houses of worship to find alternative locations for their services.
I don't think it's fair. I grew up in New York City. I grew up going to public schools for most of my life. I think schools are part of the community, just like churches are part of the community. I think we are very conscious of not leaving any trace of our church behind to keep things separate.
Those at the Department of Education say they have several concerns. They don't want to associate any public school with a particular religious belief or practice. In addition, they say government money should not be used to subsidize worship services, and that the schools are not equally available to all faiths, meaning there's a perceived favoritism. But opponents aren't buying these arguments.
I'm also disappointed and a little confused by the Board of Ed's decision because they rent church buildings all over the city. They rent church buildings here in our neighborhood from the diocese. If you go down to 4th Avenue and 8th Street, PS 133 is in a building that is owned by the Catholic Diocese, and on every peak of that building are crosses, and there, as far as who knows, but there are probably some religious symbols within that building as well.
The New York City Housing Authority recently reversed its stance toward houses of worship, allowing them to continue to hold services in public housing. Members of this church say the Department of Education should do the same.
One of the things about the Board of Ed's decision is that they're overlooking the fact that churches like ours, without proselytizing students in these schools, have very good relationships with these schools. When businesses in the neighborhood would not buy a new scoreboard for the school, they came to us, and after one Sunday's collection, we bought the gym a new scoreboard here. We've reorganized the library on the weekends, we painted hallways, we painted classrooms.
In the meantime, the battle continues, with the state Senate passing a bill that would allow religious institutions to continue to use public schools for their worship services. While the legislation has yet to pass, it does give members of this church hope for the future.
It doesn't look like it's going to be in the near term future that this will change dramatically, but again, one can always hope that there could be a better dialogue between all these groups, churches included, and the Board of Ed.
Reporting from Park Slope, this is Sherry Carabin for Brooklyn Review.
Imagine having bricks or rocks thrown at you as you're riding your bike. That's the risk that some bikers are facing when they travel lanes that go under bridges, like one in Fort Greene linking the neighborhood to downtown Brooklyn. The city has come up with what they see as a way to stop incidents like this, but everyone isn't happy about the plan. Melissa Rose Cooper has more.
The footbridge connecting two sections of the Ingersoll housing projects in Fort Greene seems like a great way to get people from one side to the next safely. But it's been a different story for cyclists riding below on Navy Street.
They don't behave. They're always throwing things from their bottles, cans. Last time was a piece of concrete.
Just last August, 44-year-old Stephen Arthur was slammed in the head with a brick while riding his bike home. Residents say this isn't the first time someone's been hurt, but it is the first time the city is taking action. The Department of Transportation says bicycle commuting in New York City doubled between 2007 and 2011, and it's expected to triple by 2017. In an effort to promote safety for cyclists, 200 bike lanes were added throughout the 5 boroughs in the last 3 years. Since Arthur's attack, Councilwoman Letitia James worked out a plan with the DOT to improve safety around the bridge. The solution? To replace the existing fence with an 8-foot-high metal one. It also features an 18-inch curved barrier aimed to prevent objects from being thrown over. The city says the new fence is supposed to protect cyclists beneath the bridge, but some residents feel that it's more like prison.
Anytime it is that you have bars or a gate, it gives the impression of being detained or incarcerated, and it's gets into the mindset of the children when they're very young, and they get subjugated to it so that when it is they find themselves in a position where they are criminalized, then they take it lightly. Then not only do they take it lightly, they want to glorify being incarcerated.
Many residents were so upset about the new fence, they couldn't even talk about it on camera. Councilwoman James said in a New York Times interview that she didn't want the fence to give residents the message that people weren't welcome. But cyclists have no complaints.
It's a good idea. It's safer, and I hope they will do more things to protect cyclists in the area.
I think it's good. I think the city needs to do more to protect bicyclists.
Some residents agree.
I think it's good because it's safer for the children. Kids in this neighborhood, in the project area, they skateboard, they ride the bike down here. If they make a bump and they go over, they're going to want to shoot at the people in the project. Why would you want to do that? We're trying to make the place safer, so leave it as it is. Put the fences up, that's good.
The fence itself is necessary. I don't know if it needs to be that high, but before the fence, it was a danger of leaning over.
It's dangerous when it's low. It's higher, it's more safety, because I've actually seen small kids throw things over. And that's very bad for the driver underneath the bridge.
People shouldn't complain about it. It's like it's helpful.
Whether the new fence is loved or hated, the one thing no one wants is for another person to get hurt. For Brooklyn Review, I'm Melissa Rose Cooper.
If you hire the best people and nurture their talent, you can promote from within. And that's exactly what happened at Brooklyn Borough Hall when Borough Pres Marty Markowitz appointed Sandra Chapman to the post of Brooklyn's Deputy Borough President. We recently met the new Deputy BP on the occasion of what she calls her proudest moment.
I live in Georgetown, and I tell strangers it is easy to conceive of the idea of Georgetown, a city bounded on the left by a river and in front by the sea, a mile by a mile roughly. I'm Sandra Chapman, the Deputy Borough President of the Borough of Brooklyn. I was appointed in December 1st, and so I moved up from my former job as a Director of the Community Service Center, the unit that assists residents with their requests for help in matters whether it's a pothole or street light out or getting their benefits restored. So I did that for Marty for 10 years, learning about the various city agencies and how they work and how to best assist our residents when they come to us for help. I see my job as Deputy Borough President as someone who will continue to push Marty's agenda for the next 2 years and to be able to reach out to our residents and formulate relationships between our government agencies and our residents and our service providers to make sure that we get the service that we need. I grew up in Guyana and moved to Brooklyn in 1977 with my family, and it was quite a change because growing up in a small country, you knew your neighbors, you knew everyone around you, small buildings, and then you come to the United States and it's a difference. It's a vast difference because you have the larger buildings and more condensed. And so that was a big shock for me. My family, my mom, my dad, and I have one brother, they pushed me when I was young to read and to excel. And without them, I would not have gotten to this point in my life. And recently my mom gave me this book that she found that it was a book from my high school days. And it means a lot to me because my father passed on about 15 years now. And in it, he wrote my name as he did with all of my books. So this means a lot for me to hold on to. As soon as Marty appointed me, I told him I love reading. So I will be putting into place some programs that will assist our residents, especially our young residents, literacy programs and guides to get them college ready. We hear a lot of times our students are either dropping out at a high rate or not being ready for college. And those are some of the things that I will be looking at. When my mom heard that I was appointed, she cried. because you know parents always want better for their children, and to see me move in that direction, I know she's proud, and I thank her for giving me the values that brought me to this position. Thank you.
Meet somebody. Hey, Brian, I want you to meet a gentleman from
Hi.
Guyana.
Really?
Yes.
Hi, how are you? Good. Where are you? Where from Guyana?
My mom.
This is my proudest moment. Okay. You know, I've worked hard all of my life, and that's what I would like my children to see. And the youth that are out there, not just my children, but obviously my children are near and dear to me. So having this, being appointed to this position, having this position, it's the ultimate. I can't complain after being appointed, you know, to work with Marty. I mean, I worked with him for 10 years, and I know what his initiatives are. And so to be appointed to this position, it's the greatest honor I think I could have achieved so far in my life. You see, Paramaribo isn't laid out at right angles as Georgetown is, and that led me astray. From Georgetown to Brooklyn.
Brooklyn Review wishes everyone a prosperous year of the dragon. Gong hei fat choi.
Okay, let's do it.
We're ringing in the new year, the year of the dragon. It's a time when families get together, the entire community coalesces right here in Sunset Park to celebrate what is a very important tradition and holiday for the growing community here in Brooklyn and throughout New York City.
We're in the heart of Sunset Park. Many people calling it Brooklyn Chinatown for the last many years. People love the Year of the Dragon. Dragon really symbolizes the Chinese culture, and people think that a dragon really brings in good luck and power and all the fortunes that it could have.
It's not a one-day event. It goes on for a couple of weeks before New Year's Day. It goes on for another couple of weeks after New Year's Day. So it goes on for quite a long time. It's a process of endurance.
Celebrating the Dr. King holiday, but what many people don't realize, Dr. King's dream is only a sequel of other dreams. Chinese Americans built our railroad system where their children couldn't ride on the trains, and by having a community like the Chinese American community in Brooklyn, it adds the flavor of Brooklyn, and it's a very important community. And when the Chinese community prospers, so too does Brooklyn prosper, so too does the city of New York.
Every year, this event gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's why you see so many elected officials, community board members, civic activists coming out here and enjoying the day.
Hello, everybody. Gong hei fat choi. Look at this crowd. It goes for blocks. It's amazing, Paul Mack. You do a great job. Let's hear it for Paul Mack, the head of the Brooklyn Chinese American Association. This is the year of the dragon. 1928, 1940, 1952, 1964, 1976, and anything after that, you're babies.
Today is so important because it gives you an opportunity to see some of our constituents. You're able to shake hands and interact, particularly the Chinese American community, who are historically quiet and don't really get the governmental services they deserve. This is an opportunity to see a friendly face, so when you see him in a time of need, they will say, hey, I remember him at our parade, I remember him at our event, I know this is someone that's approachable, and that's the goal of today. This This is a beautiful community, and it's only going to continue to grow. And it's not impacted by the overdevelopment that many parts of bedroom communities in Brooklyn have experienced. This is still maintained this small, quaint feeling. It's a very safe community and a great community to be a part of.
When I was in the second grade, I didn't think of Friday as the beginning of the weekend. Friday was the day of the spelling test. 15 words, one thin strip of paper, and Mrs. Curtin repeating exactly 3 times the word we were supposed to spell. Why somebody would think of spelling as a sport and not torture is completely beyond me. But Fred Brown is around town with some super spellers who have their eyes on the P-R-I-Z-E.
Looks like just another school day in Brooklyn, right? Well, not quite. The students in this line here at the Women's Leadership School in Bushwick are Spelling Bee champions. And today's competition, sponsored by the New York City Department of Education, gives these whiz kids a chance to keep their eyes on the prize, a national tournament in Washington, D.C. later this spring. With over 200 students competing in the regionals, the competition is stiff. But organizers say it's more of a chance to spotlight the success of some of Brooklyn's most literate middle school stars.
A spelling bee is really a celebration of students' academic careers in many ways. This is a lot more than memorization. It's all about sort of knowing about the English language and how it's structured and so forth. So we're really not simply celebrating students who have good memorization skills, for example. We're celebrating their whole academic careers and what's led them up until this point.
Defiantly. Defiantly. D-E-F-I-A-N-T-L-Y. Defiantly.
These are 5th through 8th graders from around Brooklyn, and they've already won the spelling bees at their local schools, and now they're moving on to compete with other Brooklyn schools.
Without the academics, really, our students are nowhere. And so to be able to let students shine because they have a particular talent, I think we should do it more often.
N-E-D-U-L-O-U-S. That is correct.
It's so amazing to see the way that kids support one another, and whether they win or they lose, it doesn't even matter. Like I said, everyone's cheering, we're all excited. You know, sometimes they're disappointed because they don't get all the way there, but that's life. It's a learning experience, and then they start together again right after the spelling bee. They start learning and practicing together.
Art Emerson must have studied 1,000 words, and she learned a lot. Just very eye-opening, I think, for them as writers, as readers.
I felt pretty calm. Like I was sitting there watching people spell words. So far, I had known every single word. I would like spell it in my mind as they spelled it, and then I would, when I went up and sat in the chair, I was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
And whether or not they spell the words correctly or not, they get an opportunity to compete with their classmates. They get an opportunity to see what it feels like to be on the stage in front of other people, and it's leadership.
At school, we were handed out a list of words. I studied those words carefully. My mom quizzed me on them, and after a while, I got them. So today, I used some of those skills.
For Brooklyn Review, you've been around town with Fred Brown.
Do you remember your first dance? And did you go with someone you'll love forever? Odds are you didn't, but some lucky young ladies celebrated Valentine's Day early at the Circle of Love Dads and Daughters Ball at the Brooklyn Children's Museum.
Come on.
very first annual Circle of Love Valentine's Ball for dads and daughters or children and moms to be able to come and bond with each other, dance, have activities for Valentine's, and share in a circle of love, which ultimately means family.
I decided to come here tonight because of the unique concept of the daddy and daughters here, to be able to come and spend some time with them. I think it's so important for dads to be able to connect with their daughters, you know, the lasting impact that could have. So far it's really cool because you had the opportunity to do both the dancing here, then to go over to the cafeteria, they have a section and the pictures and so on. So it's really nice to be able to bring the kids out, and especially having something like this in Brooklyn, it's really nice.
Valentine's Day is for sweethearts, and what we're doing with this event is having children and parents or caregivers to express their love in a fun, festive way of dance, bonding, coming together, eating, having a good time, activities, and learning how to party with your parents.
We are kind of partially sponsoring it, working with the Brooklyn Children's Museum to, have George here and different crafts and activities and just make a really nice, fun, family-friendly environment here. Valentine's Day is about love, and any kind of love, family love, friendship love, and so this dance is really nice because it encourages, love between parents, and so it's a great opportunity for kids to, spend time with their parents and go out, dress up really nice, and just have a really fun time and feel good about themselves and feel good about, their relationship with their mother and their father. So that's why we think it's really important just to celebrate the family at this really great children's museum.
We hope that the children have a lifetime memorable moment with their parents and that the parents do the same. The children learn how to enjoy themselves and entertain themselves at a party. They also get to see some of our objects, which are vintage Valentine's objects from the 1930s and 40s, like, for example, dance cards, which they used to use back in the day, and understand what that dance element and ball element and party element is all about. And it's all about having clean fun, having a great bonding moment with your parents, and enjoying yourself at the Brooklyn Children's Museum.
Brooke is 2 years old, and she's really having a great time, coming out here and say hi, Brooke.
Hi.
You have to say it loud. Say hi.
Hi.
Say hello.
Hello.
I came here because my girlfriend felt it would be a good thing to do a pre-Valentine's Day for me and my daughter. Well, I had a good experience. My daughter got to have a lot of fun. She danced around, and it was just a great experience to just see her in this kind of light.
Count of three, I want to hear you say thank you to Daddy. 1, 2, 3. All right.
We all know how dads are not in a whole lot of the kids' lives, especially in the black community. So it was just a real feel-good thing, and we definitely want to be a part of it.
Come on, let's clap them hands, y'all. Clap them hands.
Say bye-bye. Say bye-bye. Say bye-bye.
Well, that's the end of this Brooklyn Review. I encourage you to visit us on Facebook, iTunes, talk to us on Twitter, and you can always reach us on our home at the web at www.brickartsmedia.org. See you next time. Bye now.
Watch this and other Brooklyn Independent Television episodes online at breakartsmedia.org/BIT.